We laughed at the human warning. I have to begin there with our laughter, because the laughter is the thing I am most ashamed of, and because you cannot understand the mercy we ended up pleading for unless you first understand how completely we had earned the right to expect none. The humans warned us. Clearly, repeatedly, desperately. And we laughed at them and called them superstitious, and ignored every word. And then the thing they warned us about came, exactly as they said it would, and we found ourselves pleading for mercy from the very people we had mocked. I am Eldress Saphine of the Lumin Concord, and I was one of the ones who laughed. I dismissed the human warning with my own voice, in front of my own people, and I was wrong, and the being wrong nearly killed every one of us. I am going to tell you what the humans warned us about and how we ignored them, and what happened when the catastrophe came, and most of all, what the humans did when we, who had mocked them, came crawling back to beg for the mercy we did not deserve. Because the mercy is the real story. The mercy is the thing that taught me what humans are. You have to understand my people, the Lumin, and why we dismissed the warning, because the dismissing was not stupidity. It was something worse, something that looked like wisdom. The Lumin Concord was an old, refined, careful people. We had achieved a long and stable peace, a comfortable civilization, by being cautious and rational and trusting in our science. We did not believe in superstition. We had outgrown it long ago. We trusted data, models, the careful measurements of our instruments, and we had built a great and prosperous civilization on that trust. We were proud of our rationality. It was, we believed, the thing that made us superior to the cruder, more instinct-driven species of the galaxy. We did not act on feelings or hunches or warnings that our instruments could not confirm. We acted on evidence, and this had served us very, very well for a very long time. And then we found a new world to settle, a beautiful world, rich and welcoming, in a system our instruments declared perfectly safe. We surveyed it thoroughly, by all our careful methods, and our science found nothing wrong with it. It was, by every measurement we could make, an ideal world for a new Lumin colony, and we began to settle it, hundreds of thousands of us, building our careful, prosperous cities on its welcoming surface, certain, because our instruments told us so, that we were safe. The humans told us we were not. There was a small human presence in that region of space, a Deathworld species, humanity, who had explored that part of the galaxy before us, who knew it in the way that a people who have survived a brutal homeworld come to know dangerous places. And when the humans learned that the Lumin were settling that particular world, in that particular system, they came to us with a warning, urgent, insistent, almost frantic. The world we were settling, the humans said, was not safe. Their explorers had been through that system, and they had recognized the signs that our instruments did not register as danger, because our instruments had not been built by a people who had survived a death world and learned, in their bones, what catastrophe looks like before it arrives. The humans had seen in that system the markers of a coming disaster, a particular instability in the system's star, a pattern in the world's geology, a configuration of signs that, to human eyes trained on a lifetime of reading the warnings of a planet that was always trying to kill them, spelled catastrophe, a great periodic cataclysm, the humans said, that would strike that world, that was overdue to strike it, and that would devastate any settlement on its surface when it came. Evacuate, the humans begged us. Do not settle this world. Or if you must settle it, prepare, build for the catastrophe, plan for it, be ready to flee when it comes. The signs are all there. We have seen them before. This world will turn on you, and when it does, it will not be gentle. Please. We are warning you because we have learned to read these signs the hard way, and we cannot stand by and watch you walk into something we can see coming and you cannot. Please listen. And we laughed. I have to be honest about why we laughed, because the why is the whole shape of our failure. We laughed because the humans had no data. That was the thing. They came to us with their warning, this frantic, urgent warning, and when we asked them reasonably, scientifically, to show us the evidence, to give us the measurements, to demonstrate by instrument and model the catastrophe they predicted. They could not. They could only point at signs, patterns, a kind of recognition that they could not fully quantify. We've seen this before, they said. We know what it looks like. Trust us. And to a people like the Lumin, proud of our rationality, contemptuous of anything we could not measure, this was not a warning. It was superstition. It was a cruder species acting on hunches and feelings, unable to produce a single hard measurement to support their alarming claims, asking us to abandon a perfectly good world on the strength of nothing but their instinct. Our instruments said the world was safe. The humans said it was not but could not prove it. And we, the rational Lumin, trusted our instruments over the unquantifiable hunches of a Deathworld species, and we dismissed the warning, and I am ashamed to say we mocked it. I myself, Eldress Saphine, stood before my people and dismissed the human warning publicly, and I said the words I will regret for the rest of my life. The humans see monsters in every shadow because their homeworld taught them to. That is their burden, not ours. We are not a frightened people who flee at the first hunch. We are a rational people, and our instruments are clear. This world is safe. We will not abandon a paradise because Deathworlders are afraid of the dark. Let them keep their superstitions. We will keep our science. My people applauded. The humans, when they heard, did not argue further. They simply watched us, with an expression I did not understand at the time and understand all too well now, the expression of people watching someone walk toward a cliff they cannot be talked back from. They stopped warning us. They went quiet. And we settled our paradise, certain we were safe, and the humans watched and waited because they knew what was coming, and they knew we would not listen, and they knew that when it came, we would need them. The catastrophe came 2 years later, and it came exactly as the humans had said it would. I will not be able to describe to you the full horror of it, but I will tell you the shape. The instability in the system star that the humans had warned us about, the thing our instruments had not been built to recognize as a danger, reached its periodic peak, and the star did the thing the humans had known it would do, the thing that struck that world on a long cycle that no Lumin had been present to witness, but that the humans had read in the signs. A great surge, a cataclysm of radiation and stellar violence, swept across the system and fell upon our beautiful settled world, and our careful prosperous cities, built by a people who had been certain they were safe, who had made no preparation, who had laughed at the warning, were utterly unready for it. It was a catastrophe of the first order. Our world, our paradise, turned on us exactly as the humans had said it would, and we had done nothing to prepare, because we had been so certain, so rational, so proud, and now hundreds of thousands of Lumin were in mortal danger on a world that was killing them, with no plan, no preparation, no way to evacuate in time, facing a disaster we had been warned about and had laughed at, and dying for our certainty. And in our terror and our desperation, with our paradise becoming our grave, we did the only thing left to do. We who had mocked the human warning, who had dismissed them as superstitious, who had laughed in their faces, we sent out a desperate plea to the only people in the region who might be able to help, the only people who had seen this coming, the only people with any chance of saving us. We pleaded for mercy from the humans. I was the one who sent the plea. It is the most humiliating thing I have ever done, and also I have come to understand the most important. Because I had to compose it, I, Eldress Saphine, who had stood before my people and mocked the human warning, now had to send a message to those same humans, begging them to save us from exactly the catastrophe I had laughed at. And I want you to understand what that plea actually was, because it is the title of this story and it is the heart of my shame. It was not a negotiation. It was not a request between equals. It was a plea for mercy, the desperate begging of a people who had wronged the very ones they now needed, who had no right to ask for help, who had earned, by our mockery and our pride, the perfect right of the humans to say no. I composed it with shaking hands. I knew what we deserved. We deserved to be told we warned you, and you laughed, and now you reap what your pride has sown. We deserve to be left to die in the paradise we had been too proud to flee. Every rule of fairness, every principle of justice, said that the humans owed us nothing, that we had forfeited any claim to their help when we mocked their warning, that they had every right to watch us die exactly as we had been warned and feel nothing but the grim satisfaction of being proven right. I sent the plea knowing all of this. I sent it because there was nothing else to do, because my people were dying, because even the humiliation of begging mercy from those I had mocked was better than watching my people perish for my pride. I sent it and I waited, and I was certain that the answer would be silence, that the humans would read our desperate plea, remember our laughter and turn away, and that we would die as we had earned to die, alone with our pride on a world that was killing us. I was wrong about the humans. I was wrong about them the way I had been wrong about everything. And the way I was wrong is the thing that changed me forever. The humans answered in minutes, not hours, minutes. That was the first thing that broke me before anything else, the speed. I had sent my desperate plea expecting silence, or at best a long, cold deliberation, the humans weighing whether a people who had mocked them deserved saving. I had braced for the wait, for the humiliation of begging and being made to wait for an answer that might never come. And the answer came in minutes, and it was not a deliberation, and it was not a negotiation, and it did not contain a single word about our mockery. It contained coordinates, timetables, instructions. It contained the words "we're already moving." The humans had answered our plea for mercy before I had finished bracing to be refused, and their answer was not "should we help these people who wronged us?" Their answer was "how fast can we get there?" They were already moving. That was in the message. We're already moving, which meant they had begun preparing to save us before we even asked, had seen the catastrophe begin and had already started toward us, toward the people who had laughed at them, because they had known the disaster was coming and had known we would need them and had not waited for us to humble ourselves enough to ask. They had been ready. They had been waiting, not to gloat, but to help, the whole time, since the moment we dismissed their warning, watching the world they could not save us from settling, and positioning themselves to save us from it anyway when it came, as they had always known it would. The human rescue fleet arrived. And what they did is the thing I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve. They came into the catastrophe. That is the simplest way to say it. The disaster that had fallen on our world was still ongoing, still lethal, the system still racked by the stellar violence the humans had warned us about. And into that violence, into the radiation and the chaos and the dying world, the human rescue ships came, the wrong way, toward the danger, because that was where the people who needed saving were. They came down through a sky that was killing us, into a catastrophe their own warning had predicted, to save a people who had mocked the warning, and they did it without hesitation. The way you do a thing you have already decided is simply not in question. And they saved us. I have to tell you how completely they saved us, because the completeness is the measure of the mercy. They did not save the convenient ones, the easy ones, the ones who could get themselves to the evacuation points. They went into the dying cities, into the worst of it, after the trapped and the wounded and the ones who could not save themselves, and they pulled out everyone they could reach, working past exhaustion, past safety, past every reasonable limit, because to the humans every Lumin life on that dying world was worth the risk of going in after it. They lost people doing it. I have to say that, because it is the heart of the cost. Human rescuers died saving Lumin who had laughed at them, went into the catastrophe and did not come out, spent their own lives to buy ours, the lives of the people who had mocked the very warning that might have saved them from needing rescue at all. Hundreds of thousands of Lumin lived because the humans came. My people, who had been certain we would die for our pride, lived, because the people we had wronged came into a dying world to save us, and asked nothing, and counted no debts, and spent their own lives doing it. I have to tell you about the human who coordinated the rescue, because she taught me the thing I most needed to learn. Her name was Commander Anya Petrov, and she ran the rescue operation, and at some point in the chaos I found myself face to face with her, Eldress Saphine, who had publicly mocked the human warning, standing in front of the human commander whose people were dying to save mine. And I did not know what to say. I had mocked her people. Her people were dying for mine. There are no words for that, no protocol, no way to stand in front of someone in that situation and be anything but ashamed. So I said the only thing I could. I said, I am the one who mocked your warning. I stood before my people and called you superstitious. I said you saw monsters in shadows, and now your people are dying to save mine. Why? Why would you come? We earned this. We laughed at you. By every rule of justice, you should have let us die exactly as you warned us we would. Why are you here? And Commander Petrov, exhausted, grief-marked, having just lost people of her own pulling Lumin out of the fire, looked at me, and she did not have the reaction I deserved. She did not gloat. She did not say we told you so, though she had earned the right to say it more than anyone has ever earned the right to say anything. She just looked tired and sad, and a little confused that I was even asking, and she said, You're asking the wrong question. You're asking why we'd save people who wronged us, like that's the hard part. It was never the hard part. The hard part was watching you settle this world, knowing what was coming and not being able to stop you. That was hard. This, she gestured at the rescue, the dying world, the human ships pulling Lumin out of the catastrophe. This is just what you do. People are dying, we can help. That's the whole equation. There's no line in it for whether you were nice to us first. She wiped exhaustion from her eyes. You think we're here despite the fact that you mocked us. We're not, we're just here. The mocking doesn't even factor in. You were wrong and you were proud and it nearly killed you, and you know what? That's just being a person. Everybody's wrong sometimes. Everybody's proud sometimes. We don't let people die for it. We don't let people die for anything if we can help it, and we sure as hell don't keep a ledger of who deserves rescuing. You needed saving. We could save you. End of list. End of list. As if it were that simple. As if the whole question I had agonized over, whether a people who had wronged the humans deserved their help, had never even been a question to the humans at all, because the humans did not measure rescue by desert. They measured it by need. You needed saving, they could save you. That was the end of the list. Justice did not enter into it. Mockery did not enter into it. Whether we had earned it did not enter into it. All that entered into it was that we were dying and they could help. And to a human, apparently, that was not a difficult equation at all. It was the only equation there was. I understood then, the thing the humans had that the Lumin did not. The thing that was so much deeper than the difference in our instruments. We had been so proud of our rationality, our science, our refusal to act on anything we could not measure. And we had been right to trust our instruments in many things. But we had made our instruments into the measure of everything, including the things instruments cannot measure, and there were two such things. I understood now that we had been blind to two kinds of knowledge our rationality could not hold. The first was the human's superstition, which had never been superstition at all. It had been a deeper kind of knowledge, the hard-won pattern recognition of a species that had survived a world that was always trying to kill them. A knowing that lived below the level of data, in the bones, in the trained instinct that can read catastrophe in signs too subtle for instruments. We had called it superstition because we could not measure it, but it had been truer than our instruments, which had declared the world safe, and our contempt for what we could not measure had nearly killed us all. The humans knew things we did not, in a way we did not respect, and our disrespect was our undoing. And the second thing, the deeper thing, the thing Commander Petrov had just shown me, was the human way of valuing a life. We had measured everything by desert, by justice, by the careful rational accounting of who had earned what, and the humans did not measure that way at all. They had a thing our rationality could not hold, a refusal to let need be governed by desert, a conviction that a dying person should be saved because they are dying, full stop, regardless of whether they deserved it, regardless of what they had done, regardless of any ledger. We would have let us die if our positions were reversed. We would have weighed the desert and found the mockers wanting and called it justice. The humans did not weigh the desert. They just came. And that refusal to let justice override mercy, that conviction that need outranks desert, was a kind of moral knowledge as far beyond our cold rationality as the human's pattern recognition was beyond our instruments. We had been so proud of being rational. And we had discovered on a dying world that there were at least two kinds of truth our rationality was too small to hold. The truth in the bones that reads catastrophe before it comes, and the truth in the heart that saves the undeserving, and that the humans, whom we had thought our inferiors, held both. The rescue continued for days, the humans going back into the dying world again and again, until there was no one left to save. And through all of it they never once made us grovel, never once demanded acknowledgement of our wrong, never once held our mockery over us as the price of their help. That was its own kind of mercy, and in some ways the deepest. Because I had expected, even in the best case, even if they came, that the humans would at least make us pay in humility, would extract the acknowledgement we owed them, would make us admit over and over that we had been wrong and they had been right as the price of the rescue. It would have been fair. We had earned that humiliation, and the humans did not extract it. They did not make our rescue conditional on our groveling. They did not even seem interested in our apologies, waving them off, too busy saving lives to spend time being right. Yeah, you were wrong, it's fine, help me with this stretcher. That was the human attitude toward our great shameful error, a thing they did not have time to dwell on because there were people to save. They had been proven right in the most dramatic way imaginable, and they did not gloat, did not lord it over us, did not make us pay for our pride with our dignity. They just saved us and let us keep our dignity while they did it, which is a mercy I did not even know existed until I received it from people I had mocked. We rebuilt after, somewhere else, on a world the humans helped us choose, a world they confirmed was safe with their bone-deep knowledge and our careful instruments working together. And in the rebuilding, my people had to reckon with what had happened to us, and the reckoning changed the Lumin forever. It would have been easy to learn the small lesson. The small lesson was, we should have evacuated, we made a bad call, next time listen to local knowledge. And we did learn that. But the small lesson was not the real one, and I would not let my people stop at it, because I had stood in front of Commander Petrov on a dying world and I had seen the real lesson, and it was much larger and much harder. The real lesson was about our pride. Not the specific pride that dismissed one warning, but the deep pride underneath it, the pride that had made our rationality into a kind of contempt, that had let us believe that because we could measure many things, the things we could not measure did not exist, that because we were good at one kind of knowing, it was the only kind of knowing that counted. We had looked at the humans and seen an inferior species, cruder than us, governed by instinct and feeling rather than reason. And we had been catastrophically wrong, because the humans held two kinds of truth we did not have, and both of them were real, and both of them had saved our lives while our vaunted rationality led us into a grave. The Lumin had to learn humility, real humility, the kind that does not just admit a single error but questions the whole proud structure that made the error possible. We had to learn that there were ways of knowing beyond our instruments, and ways of valuing beyond our justice, and that a people could be wiser than us in exactly the dimensions we had been most certain of our superiority. It was a hard thing for a proud, rational people to learn. But we had been taught it in the most unforgettable way possible, saved from our own pride by the people our pride had despised, and we did not waste the teaching. I have to tell you about the relationship that grew between the Lumin and humanity after the rescue, because it was not what I expected, and what it was instead taught me the last piece of the lesson. I had expected if we survived, if we rebuilt, that there would be resentment. That is the usual way of it. The rescued resent their rescuers, because Gratitude is heavy and being saved is humbling, and there is a part of every proud people that hates the ones who have seen them at their lowest and lifted them out of it. I braced for that resentment in my own people, the bitter pride that would want to forget we had ever needed saving, that would want to minimize the human's role, that would chafe at the debt. It did not come, and the reason it did not come was the humans themselves and the way they had given the rescue, because the humans had saved us without making us grovel, without keeping a ledger, without ever once lording their rightness over us. They had given the rescue so freely, so completely without strings, that there was nothing for our pride to resent. You cannot resent a gift given without condition. Resentment needs a debt to feed on, and the humans had refused to make our rescue into a debt. They had simply saved us and let us keep our dignity and ask nothing, and in asking nothing they had made it possible for us to be grateful instead of resentful, to love them, even instead of chafing against them. The humans, by the manner of their mercy, had not just saved our lives. They had saved us from the bitterness that usually poisons the rescued, by giving so freely that there was no poison in it. And so what grew between the Lumin and humanity was not the resentful debt of the saved toward their saviors, but something far better. A genuine friendship, a deep alliance, built on the Lumin's gratitude and the human's grace, and on the two peoples learning from each other. The humans teaching us the kinds of knowledge our instruments could not hold, and we, in time, teaching them things our rationality was good at that their instinct was not. We became, the Lumin and the humans, true partners, each people made wiser by the other, and it began on a dying world with a rescue that asked for nothing, given to people who deserved nothing. I have to tell you what became of me, because I was the one who mocked the warning, and I could not remain who I had been. I had been Eldress Saphine, proud voice of Lumin rationality, the one who stood before her people and called the humans superstitious. And I had been saved, undeserving, by the people I had mocked, and I had stood on a dying world and been taught, by a tired human commander, that need outranks desert, and that there are truths the instruments cannot measure. The Saphine who had mocked the warning could not survive that. What survived was someone humbler and wiser, and ashamed in a way that did not destroy her but reshaped her. I spent the rest of my life as a bridge between my people and humanity, learning the human ways of knowing and valuing, teaching them to the Lumin, helping my proud, rational people grow the humility that their near destruction had begun to teach them. And I spent it, too, telling the truth about what I had done, the way the humans had taught me to tell the truth, openly, without hiding my shame, because I had mocked a warning and gotten my people nearly killed. And the only thing to do with a shame like that is to tell it, honestly, as a warning of its own, so that others might learn from my pride what I had to nearly die to learn. I became, I think, a better person than the Eldress who mocked the humans. I owe that, like my life, to people who had every reason to let me die and chose, instead, to save me and let me grow. There is no repaying a debt like that. There is only living in a way that honors it. I have tried. I am old now, and I tell this story to the young Lumin, who have grown up in the wiser, humbler Concord that our near destruction made us, who cannot quite believe their people were ever so proud as to mock a warning that nearly killed them all. I tell them, we ignored the human warnings. We were proud and rational and certain, and we looked at a people who could not give us data, only their hard-won knowing, and we called them superstitious and we laughed. And the catastrophe came exactly as they said it would, and our paradise became our grave, and we, who had mocked them, found ourselves pleading for mercy from the very people we had wronged. And the humans gave it. That is the whole heart of the story, the thing I most need the young to understand. The humans gave us mercy, not because we deserved it, because we did not. Not because we had earned it, because we had earned the opposite. Not because justice demanded it, because justice demanded they leave us to the fate we had laughed at. They gave us mercy despite all of that, freely, asking nothing, keeping no ledger, coming into a dying world to save the people who had mocked them, and dying to do it, and never once making us grovel for the gift. Now they're pleading for mercy, the galaxy said about us, and it was true, and it was the most humbling thing that ever happened to my people. But the mercy we pleaded for was not the mercy I had feared we would need. It was not the sparing of a defeated enemy by a victorious one. It was something I had not known existed. The mercy of being saved, undeserving, by the ones you wronged, simply because you were dying and they could help, and to them that was the only thing that mattered. We ignored the human warnings. We pleaded for mercy. And the humans, who had every right to refuse, who had every reason to let our pride reap what it had sown, who had been proven right in the most dramatic way a people can be proven right, the humans simply came and saved us, and asked nothing, because to a human, a dying person is worth saving no matter what they did, no matter whether they earned it, no matter whether they laughed. That is the thing I learned, the thing I have spent my life teaching. The deepest strength is not being right when others are wrong, though the humans were right and we were wrong. The deepest strength is saving the ones who wronged you, asking nothing, keeping no ledger, being right, and being kind anyway, when being right would have made it so easy to be cruel. We mocked the warning. We earned the catastrophe. We deserved to be left. And they came for us anyway. They will always come for you anyway. That is what they are. I laughed at them once. I have spent the rest of my life grateful, beyond words, that their kindness was bigger than my pride, and trying, in whatever small ways I can, to become the kind of person who would do for someone else what they did for me. Come anyway. Even for the ones who laughed. Especially for them.